This is the audio introduction to a film documenting the second Distopias workshop, held on the 23rd of November 2021, funded by Arts Council England. The introduction lasts about a minute, and the film itself is about 7 minutes long. It's a snapshot of the workshop, which was held on Zoom. A series of 6 artists with lived experience of deafness or disability speak off camera with their ideas on a disability utopia, a dystopia. Each one is illustrated by an image chosen and described by the participant. The image is shown in the main frame, sometimes with thumbprint images of the participants and a signer running down the right-hand side. One participant signs her own contribution in the main frame, while I voice her words. First, the fiery red autumn leaves of a Japanese maple tree.
In that description of utopia from the film, it kept talking about perfect, and I was really like, oh, I hadn't thought about utopia as being perfect. Like, if it was perfect, it wouldn't be utopia for me. I like imperfection, This image is of it's looking up at a Japanese maple tree in the autumn, and it's like a canopy of red leaves and some very dark, almost black branches as well. And then behind that is this sort of grey sky.
In this photograph, I'm seated with my back towards the viewer, looking out on a vast landscape, truly vast. I only once ever went to the boundary of the farm.
My utopia is that life is like a shopping trolley in my world of utopia. I love shopping. And that you can pick and choose.
It's always interested me a lot that accessibility, often the focus of accessibility is getting you somewhere, enabling you to get from A to B. And sometimes not much attention is paid to what you actually do at B. So we often go to playgrounds with my 2 daughters. I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And it's wonderful because we can park in a disabled space and there's a fantastic park. And then it presents us to a playground where my younger daughter can't do anything because none of the playground equipment is well suited for her to do something. And so I was kind of pleasantly surprised when we went to this place, which is a country park in South Wales, about 10 miles from where we live, and it has, lo and behold, a dedicated play area for people with disabilities. And it was just a really kind of momentous day that both of my daughters could actually enjoy themselves at this place.
We were talking about Martha's Vineyard earlier on. And that's something I've been researching quite a lot over the years. It no longer exists. I've been to similar places many times though. There's a village in South Africa where everybody is deaf. It's beautiful. Everybody's signing in this village. Children going to school, doctors, gardeners, everybody. And it's absolutely beautiful. And it's the first time in my life I've seen sign language in action. And it felt like home to me. And I know it was their own South African sign language, which is different to BSL. But there's still the capacity to adjust your communication style so that you can include people. It was just really amazing. I could go up to any person and make friends. You don't have to rely on an interpreter or write anything down. You can just sign. Absolutely beautiful. It felt like home. It made my heart feel very full.
And on the day that I took this photograph, the smell of the pine trees was absolutely amazing, incredible smell. So yeah, I guess my utopia would be multi-sensory.
The quiet and the tranquility, despite at times the nature not being always generous to one, because nature's an unsentimental beast. You had to learn to read the signs of when there was going to be rain, or in summer when the wind was volatile and there was a chance of either earthquakes or veld fires. And it taught me an enormous amount to read my senses.
With another maple tree, and it's one particular leaf which is very yellow, and I think there's a bit of yellow foliage behind that, and then some sort of out of focus sky, I think. But for me, this sort of one leaf that is very dominant, I guess, in the image is around proximity and being able to get close to, or in relationship to things as we need to fully experience them. And so my utopia would have that adaptability for us to be able to do that in whatever way worked for us. And there's also something for me in terms of technologies. One of the things I love about the technologies I use is this capacity to magnify an image and bring it closer to me. So yeah, just a utopia in which we all have this, or there is this, the way it's set up allows us to kind of be in proximity to things that in a way that works for us.
Freedom for me is no longer being on that vast plateau that I still can remember. Freedom is knowing that I can still do things and in my own space and not feel hemmed in by having to explain myself or feel excluded because I couldn't or can't do something.
Thanks, Karen. That's a really interesting perspective. Anybody else?
It's actually a picture of my hand against what is actually a metal sculpture that has water, a very thin kind of curtain of water that runs down the front of it, and there's a reflection of my hand in the metal, and it's about public art. So there's a piece of public art in the centre of Bristol where I live that and is what this is the piece of art, but it's various kind of metal structures that have water running down and through them and around them, and it's yeah, I guess multi-sensory again. The sound of the water is really lovely, and you can kind of walk through sort of corridors and doorways and hear how the water shifts, but there's also the feel, touch the water, and there's almost like curtains of water in some places. I don't know how they've done it actually, sort of running down the side of these kind of metal structures. And I guess my utopia would have lots of inclusive public art and maybe be less concerned always with the visual.
I was going to add on to what Karen was saying. I think I kind of like the idea of dipping in and out of the world, because I sometimes think you want to. You get overwhelmed by things, and even if it was a utopia world, you might get overwhelmed by the loveliness of it. That's a bit hard, but you know that there's always going to be a grittier side. There's always going to be a little. And I think having a little bit of conflict in the utopia is not a bad thing.
I certainly think it's important when you're thinking about this kind of utopian vision that everyone is entitled to their individuality and their natural alliances with people that they feel they have an affinity with and that they don't have an affinity with.
And then when it gets hard, you can park into I would go back to my shopping trolley. You can take my little shopping trolley and I can park into a place where I can readjust it again. Almost like sometimes we used to have, you'll probably remember this, those of you who are older, remember when the telly screen went all fuzzy and you had to readjust the aerial or retune it. I think that's kind of what I'd like to do, is retune things every so often, because I think that would really help as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's incredibly helpful for me to hear your ideas and to broaden my own mind. Credits read, this film is part of the Distopias Project 2021, produced by Louise Fryer, featuring Steph Back, Kiran Saeed, Michael Sercombe, Holly Thomas, Karen Visser, filmmaker Kate Dangerfield, funded by Arts Council England.